It's a hard guessing game because I watched them all.
No, it's the political show I was trying to remember.
Oh, Hannity?
Oh,
Hannity. Oh, yeah, tell us about Hannity.
Tell me what went on there.
He's launching this series. It's an investigation into the background of Barack Obama. And so this is what you're talking about, right? Mm-hmm. And he has had people on to interview. It launched last night, and he just wants to really understand the ties that Senator Obama has to certain people, namely his minister in the church. And last night's focus was, he actually focused on a couple things. One was the fact that there's this, I think it's called the black value system that his church has, and it made me ask, some questions. There are things they pledge.
Now, Reverend, if every time we said black, if it was a church, and those words were white, wouldn't we call that church racist?
No, we would call it Christianity. We've been saying that since there was a white Christianity. We've been saying that ever since white Christians took part in the slave trade. We've been saying that ever since they had churches in slave castles. We don't have to say the word white. We just have to live in white America, the United States of white America.
Barack Obama's spiritual leader, Reverend Jeremiah Wright, is raising questions again. Wright has been unabashedly campaigning for Obama from the pulpit in spite of legal statutes that prevent tax-exempt organizations, religious institutions from directly endorsing candidates. The incident is the latest example of Reverend Wright publicly floating the relatively lax enforcement of this law. Wright's parent church is currently under investigation by the IRS for sponsoring a speech by Obama where the Democratic hopeful refers to his campaign and health care reform. Joining us now, the founder of the National Action Network, the Reverend Al Sharpton. Well, by the way, we're going to be together in Memphis. When are we going to be down there? April
4th is the 40th anniversary of the assassination of Dr. King, and you are coming that morning. We're going to debate on where we should go and race 40 years forward. As Martin Luther King III and others in the afternoon, we will march to the site where Dr. King was assassinated.
All right, and I'm honored to be there, and it's a worthwhile topic, and I think America's got to realize that if we follow that dream, judging people by their character, not by the color of the skin, we're all better off. Now, let me just point this out. His pastor, who inspired his book, now has been a spiritual leader for 20 years, been a part of the church, inspired the book, The Audacity of Hope. This pastor and his church bestowed a prestigious award, Lifetime Achievement Award, on the racist and anti-Semite Louis Farrakhan. Also, the pastor traveled to Tripoli with Minister Louis Farrakhan. Should we not be concerned about the associations of this pastor, this man he looks up to?
Well, first of all, and I hope that we get into this in Memphis. First of all, Jeremiah Wright is one of the most respected theologians and ministers in the country. I think to ask him to denounce Minister Farrakhan is like when I had a lot of my friends that were very upset when the White House tapes came out with some very hateful and anti-Semitic statements.
Is this the same Reverend Al Sharpton? Let me see if I understand this. The same Reverend Al Sharpton. Wait a minute. Who wanted Don Imus off the air? Excuse me.
May I answer? Wait.
No, let me
answer the question.
You didn't answer it.
You used to work for Billy Graham. Would you denounce Billy Graham for the anti-Semitic statements?
I never worked for Billy Graham.
You were close with Billy Graham, were you not?
I was what?
Didn't you have an affiliation with Billy Graham?
No, I never worked for Billy Graham, but I love him. I like him a lot.
Do you denounce the anti-Semitic statement?
I don't know of any anti-Semitic thing he ever said, but I can tell you what Louis Farrakhan said.
No.
Billy Graham's not running for president.
Anti-Semitic statement?
Louis Farrakhan.
Or do we look at people based on their work? Billy Graham sat in the White House and made some of the most hateful statements against Jews.
Anti-Semitic.
So what I don't understand is why we are selective on what religious leaders that we want to pick statements on. I don't recall Louis Farrakhan going to the White House saying we have to do something about Jews.
I'm not going to let you filibuster. It's my turn. Here's what I want to point. Here's what I want to point out to you. Barack Obama wants to be president. Louis Farrakhan referred to Judaism as a gutter religion and the white man as the skunk of the planet Earth.
And what I'm saying to you, Sean, is that I can cite many religious leaders
and I want to know why this man wants to be president
in the White House to a sitting president.
Okay.
Why are you not upset about that?
Here's my answer, because he's not running for president. But here's my other point, and let me finish.
Louis Farrakhan.
Let me finish, please. Louis Farrakhan, if his pastor and spiritual mentor gives him a Lifetime Achievement Award, and on top of that we find out that he has a friendly relationship with a guy who bombed the Pentagon, bombed the Capitol, and bombed New York City police headquarters. Well, I'll educate you about it. I'll send you a copy of the special report we did last night.
You would have far more credibility if you were at the same standard across the board with all religious leaders. But you seem obsessed with Minister Farrakhan and excuse religious leaders that sit in the White House.
Look, I don't understand. If we're going to look at every affiliation that everybody has, the pastor, the people they talk to, the people they knew 20 years ago, nobody's going to be able to run for president.
But we're not looking at everybody.
No, that's my point. I agree with you,
We're talking about one person. I'm saying there are many religious leaders that do great things that may have said things we could disagree with. And I don't think we ought to judge Billy Graham by one or two statements, nor any other religious leader. That's all I'm saying. Let's have one standard.
By the way, Billy Graham has said he doesn't remember making those statements, and he regrets them if he did. That's what he has said.
But they were on tape.
No, I understand. I understand what you're saying. I agree with you. And we shouldn't judge somebody by one or two statements.
Were they not on tape, Alan?
No, I agree with you. I agree with you.
So then why won't Mr. Hannity
I can't speak for Mr. Hannity.
He's in the denouncing business. I'm in the rebuilding business.
Let me ask you this. This will come up again, I'm sure. But let me ask you about this issue of black churches and the idea that here's a church that says that they live by, they're teaching black values, as if that's something wrong. Because what they're teaching are family, community, doing the right thing. So could you explain to our audience what it means to be a black church?
He is in a black setting, no more than when I go and speak at a Latino church that deals with the culture of Latinos, or when you go in any other ethnic groups. Clearly, you're not talking about you're excluding others. I've preached at Trinity. Whites go there. They're talking about since their focus is there, and since the black experience is so specifically unique, they need to minister to get some of the negatives out of that. People challenge me all the time saying, when are you going to do something about black-on-black crime? Well, a black value system answers black-on-black crime. They ought to be supported for that.
Exactly. Reverend, thank you very much for coming on the program tonight. Appreciate your time,
Thank you.
And let's check it with Greta.